This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
It's a new year, so you know what that means. That means a new season. It's season 4. Intro a little revamped. Microphone a little revamped. Branding a little revamped. We are now officially the Past BT. So welcome all Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all podcast platforms. Here you're going to get a flavor of sports, music, tech, video games. Once in a while, we'll get an Ass of the Week and a new part that's going to be coming in. It's not mentioned on the season 3, but we do what's called Pass the Message. So definitely you want to tune in and get some good content on the Pass with your host, BT. What is up? What's going on? Episode 282 of The Pass is here. I'm your host, BT. We're going to go ahead and get this ball rolling. I got a lot of things to talk about, and I'm going to try to get into everything that I can without leaving any thoughts unturned as usual. And as you can read by the title, this is going to probably take up a vast majority of the podcast. So if you are watching on Insta Live, if you come in and we start talking about it, you're welcome to give feedback, and we'll try to run this, but not run it too heavily. What's going on, Sensibly Cynical? Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. So we're going to get into, before we actually start the actual topic that's going to take a majority of the show, I am going to, as I always do each week, we're going to talk about the angel number, which is angel number 282. Do not ignore the number 282, because this is a message from the angels, and this is what they are saying. Angel number 282 is a sign of balance. You may be experiencing a time in your life where there are so many expectations from you. School, work, family, kids, business, friends. Angel number 282 is a message from the angels encouraging you to begin to find a balance for all of this. The angels encourage you to write down a list of what is important for now and what is not. Allocate different timings to satisfy each, and if you cannot, simply place them on priority. The ministering angels acknowledge that you're a high achiever and also embrace that you're a busy bee. Angel number 282 is a sign for you to find balance in all that you are doing. Give priority to what is needed and balance out the rest. This will leave you organized and have everyone at peace too. Angel number 282 is a symbol of discernment. This is a message from the angel numbers advising you to begin embracing all the feelings about yourself and others that you are having. Do not ignore these feelings. These feelings will help you and others so that mistakes do not happen. Angel number 22 tells you that you are gifted. Do not misuse this gift by ignoring it. Begin to embrace this part of you moving forward. Angel number 8 is a symbol of achievements. The angels want you to be prepared for the success that a family member will be having very soon. This can be a wedding, a new baby, or even a graduation. We'll get into that in a moment. The angel number 282 is sending you a message reassuring you that even if this is not your achievement, be proud and be happy for them who are receiving. The angels are also telling you that your time will soon come to be, and you too will receive recognition too. Angel number 282 is telling you that the angels will always be by your side, protecting and guiding you through every step and decision of your life. Therefore, never feel alone, worried, or anxious. This is interesting because I know for me, I've looked at my personal excitement of, actually finishing school, which was cool. But I think I've been more prioritizing, more in joy of others actually having their opportunity to graduate. So I've kind of taken it as I'm glad that I was able to achieve what I achieved, but I think I was more in tune with seeing others actually succeed and get things done that they were trying to get done. So that was a big move, and that was a big thing on my part that, you know, I enjoyed and valued for what it was worth. It's interesting because I don't know. I think when we did our last show, I actually did, in doing my last show, I know I'd mentioned I was in the process of getting ready to graduate, but here we are now actually graduating. So, I've actually graduated and finished school. So that was big news, and that's, you know, been a very joyous occasion on so many levels. So I definitely took that in for what it was worth. But, you know, seeing others succeed and achieve in different things that they're doing, I've kind of been able to sit back and enjoy their moments as well, because it, as one of my affirmations does state, it is important to be selfless instead of selfish. And that is something that I definitely can say without a shadow of a doubt I've been working on very hard. So I'm not gonna go to all over the place. Like I said, if people come into my live and talk about this, cool. If not, then I'll just kind of talk about it and really break this down, because it's an interesting conversation. ESPN presented a article, and I believe these were the top 10 based on that article or based on that presentation. They did a top 75 all-time players, and they got into each group, and then they got to 1 through 10, and they started counting backwards, and I'm going to do them as they presented them, and we're going to see if they got it right, but also give where they could have gotten it a little better. Number 10 was Shaq. Number 9 was Kobe. Number 8 was Tim Duncan. Number 7 was Larry Legend, Larry Bird. Number 6 was Wilt. Number 5 was Magic. Number 4 was Bill Russell. Number 3, Kareem. Number 2, LeBron. And number 1, Michael Jordan. Now, I've had this conversation with different people, and this has been a genuinely learn as you go type of experience with this conversation. And here's why I say that. I want to make sure I'm open with starting this off correctly. There is no right or wrong answer to who's number 1, who's number 10. Some of them are going to kind of be givens. And it's also, who did you watch playing basketball? Who are you a bigger fan of? Because a lot of people would look at this list and automatically put LeBron number 1. As strange as it is, I don't knock them. And this is a merit or an accolade that needs to go into looking at this. Everyone didn't watch everybody play basketball. A lot of people who watch players from before play are going to be biased to players that they've seen in their heyday and not really give a lot of the players in today's game their respect. We hear this all the time, but it's an absolutely honest statement that you have to look at. The game of basketball has changed, so it's not as cut and dry as it used to be with the way players compete in today's game. So because of that, it's a different environment, or it's a different monster. Guys were competitive then, guys that I believe are competitive now, but more players play against each other in different eras and in different generations of basketball. Guys who play against each other now, they're more frequently to play against each other in different forms, such as through an all-star game, through an AAU, through a pickup game, different scenarios and different options. So to go into this and to kind of look at it, one, I thought Magic was ranked too high. And I don't want to be that person to look at it as, well, we're looking at this based on championships, or we're looking at this based on like all around. If you're looking at it from an all around, all purpose package, I also think LeBron's ranked too high. And a lot of people are probably going to say, well, LeBron is one of the most athletic and or talented players we've watched in basketball. I could say that, but I also can say that I don't, the competition in today's game is higher. Let's be 100% clear. Let's make no mistake about it. So if we're looking at talent being higher, and you have a player such as Tim Duncan, who has won I believe. I think he only lost in the finals once or twice. I think 2 times. And for them to, I almost want to say once. I might be reaching with that. I know they lost to the Heat 1 year. I'm trying to think who that other finals loss was. But even with that being the case, like I still would look at I look at Duncan as being a much higher player. I kind of have Kareem frozen at 3. Kareem is, hands down one of the, he has the scoring championship. I don't think if the season were to have played out this year and you give LeBron next year and maybe the year after, I could see LeBron maybe surpassing that record. Hold on a second, y'all. All right. Thought we had a little bit of a delay. I may have clipped part of the intro, the first part of the convo, but we're going to just roll back into the top 10. The Bill Russell conversation always gets interesting because I feel like Bill doesn't get his credit of being, a player coach as well as how many years he won. Heck, he has the finals MVP trophy is named after him. I don't see why that puts him higher. Why that wouldn't put him higher, but that's just me thinking outside of the box. I then look at Kobe and feel like he's ranked lower than he should be. Shaq and Kobe got lowballed in this equation or in this experiment. And I only say that because Shaq has 4, Kobe has 5. Now, I know we're looking at these lists and you're thinking, okay, well, a lot of guys have more championships and have done more things, but it's little pieces of this that makes this a very odd listing. If I were ranking these players and looking at just all around players and who did what, Jordan is first. I'd have Kareem second. Bill is third. Kobe would be fourth. I'm putting Shaq 5. Duncan would be 6. LeBron might be 7. That's like where I'm at with that. Then I'm putting Wilt, Magic, and all the other. You can kind of fumble and fickle around with everything else on your own numbers, but that would kind of be my listing in my order of looking at these players. I'm gonna write this out, and I need to see if I can do like a little bit of not Photoshop, but just kind of like a revision of this and see if I could come up with who I would have as my 10 and in what order, and kind of get back to y'all on this because this is, like I said early on in the podcast, and I know the viewers on Instagram they're gonna miss it because I didn't share it, but in looking at this and really kind of giving it the true breakdown, it's no right or wrong answer based on what you're factoring in or out of the equation of this. Because where it got weird, like I think they did 25 all time. They had Dame Lillard in the top 70. In the 75 overall. I think he was like in the 70s. And I was like, okay, no championships. But I think it's the all-star appearances. It's the all-star snubs. It's him being in the music. It's the culture factor. Like those things that I guess are put into this too. So that's kind of my in and out of the story related to this. So I didn't do a half an hour, thank goodness. But those are the things that I look at or think of involving these players or this conversation. If you feel like it's a different list or we want to get into really unpacking this, then I definitely would love to hear your feedback, opinion, perspective, things of that sort to kind of get it into an open forum and really be talked about of top 10 players because it's a tough discussion in my opinion. This was going to be a matter of time, but they finally have gotten this story to, I guess, come to the front, to the forefront, and that is Louisville and the Brian Bowen situation have finally come ahead. Louisville received a notice of allegations from the NCAA, including a level 1 allegation involving improper recruiting offers to former signee Brian Bowen, who's now in the NBA, obviously. and the coach of another prospect, and 3 level 2 allegations, including one against former basketball coach Rick Pitino. Louisville also is accused of failing to adequately monitor the recruitment of an incoming high-profile student athlete. The NCAA alleges that Pitino, who recently was hired at Iona, did not satisfy his head coach responsibility when he failed to promote an atmosphere of compliance. Former assistant coaches Kenny Johnson and Jordan Fair are accused of providing impermissible benefits in transportation and having impermissible contact with the recruit. Louisville is the 7th program to receive an NCAA notice of allegations stemming from the FBI investigation into college basketball. Kansas, NC State, Oklahoma State, and South Carolina were all accused of level 1 violations. USC and TCU did not publicly release their notices or the allegations they were facing. And this is going to be a very extended article. I'm not going to read this start to finish. And the only reason why is because there's so much to get into about what Louisville had done. We talked about Louisville before, so this isn't like a new revelation. However, what makes this an odd story is this isn't the first time we're, none of us should be surprised by this at all. I don't know. It seems odd to me. It feels odd to me, but we shouldn't be surprised. And I'm finding in this other story, because I want to make sure I talk about this too before I forget. If any of you remember, there was a big, not an uproar, but a big conversation piece about Zion Williamson Zion Williamson going to Duke. Because and I think I talked about it at the time. The recruitment for him was very strange in him getting to Duke. I'm glad, he played for Duke 1 year. He got in the NBA. There was uncertainty of how he was going to look this season. He's been playing pretty good basketball, so everything's been a hush, but it hasn't been a hush. And now we're at a very interesting place with it. And I'm going to briefly get into this, but I'm going to still address it because it's almost a similar situation as with Louisville. Well, Louisville's is much bigger, but this story kind of has like the same look and feel almost. Zion Williams is grabbing headlines lately, but not for the reasons he'd like to be. Williams' former marketing agent Gina Ford is suing him and asking him and his family to admit to demanding and receiving what would have been impermissible benefits under NCAA rules from representatives of Duke, Nike, and Adidas. Ford is also seeking $100 million in punitive damages. The lawsuit began after Williamson sued Ford and her company, Prime Sports Marketing, last June in an attempt to terminate his representation agreement with her. Just weeks after entering into an agreement with Prime Sports Marketing, Williamson reversed course and signed with Creative Artists Agency instead. Now that Ford alleges NCAA violations have been broken by Duke, what does this mean for the university moving forward? And they talk about it a little bit in this whole breakdown. Everyone who was anyone knew Duke getting Zion did not make sense. It was like some stories it hits, but then it's also how it comes to light. Because if you look at it, and I'm not this. Let me be 100% clear. Even as a Kentucky fan, I'm taking no side on what Kentucky does with the one and done bit. But I also know if Cal gets caught, it's going to be practically, to say what I was saying, a lifetime ban for him from college basketball, and he shouldn't be surprised. Only because he has done this numerous times with different schools, and I mean it's weird to just say, okay, if he just walks away and does something small, no one's going to say anything. When in reality, they need to bring this to light and give it the attention it deserves. And that's just kind of my hot take about it. I think Duke knows what they're doing. And I think Zion knew what he was doing. Because even in him going to Duke, it was clear. Like, stories came up that he was thinking of considering coming back for his sophomore year. If he'd stayed and this all came to light, it wouldn't look good for him. There are different factors you really have to look at with this story. We're a few weeks away from the NBA, what would be the NBA draft. We're actually a couple of weeks away from what would normally be the NBA draft combine. And I believe it would have been either today or next week we would have actually done the NBA draft lottery. There's no lottery being done, which I'm still trying to figure out how that's going to work as far as what teams are picking what players. Are they just going to base it off of whatever their records are right now and run that course? Or how that's all going to be played out? And I guess we're going to see this story. I personally feel like we're going to see this story unfold as the weeks progress with the NBA and with the process with NCAA. Some kids are getting the chance of, if they have declared for the draft, they can redeclare. They can remove their declaration for the draft and go back to college. I know McClung. He was the most recent player who followed that course. He was going into the draft. He got out of the draft. Now he transferred. I forgot what school he transferred to, but he chose to transfer, which, I mean, that's never a bad thing. I talked to a friend of mine who is a Georgetown fan, and that was on this was all done on the basis of him not really getting, like, his time is going to be battled a little bit in his junior year because you got a lot of freshmen coming in. There were a couple guards that they were able to get thanks to recruitment. The NBA draft withdrawal deadline is getting pushed back. The pre-draft process has been wiped out for prospects hoping to show NBA teams what they're capable of, so the league is doing their best to try and remedy it. Sham Charania reported that the NBA is exploring a new date for the NBA Combine, and they could potentially have a virtual Combine instead. It's good to see the NCAA and NBA are working together to at least try to salvage the pre-draft process. There are a lot of prospects who want to, and the article I have is a Kentucky article, so I'm not going to read it from a Kentucky standpoint. Like, as an overall draft, there are a lot of guys who may be early second round, but could become late first round picks if the combine goes well, or if they are able to show something by actually connecting with the NBA teams and their recruiting factors. Because it's almost like and this is, I've never looked at it this way, but it's kind of almost like when a player is drafted to the NBA, it has a similarity to like you're being re-recruited. Like, you're getting, in high school, you're looking to get recruited by a college to play for whatever blue blood or whatever diehard team that you rock with, or that you think can get you to the next level, only to then in a year or so, you're going to be recruited by these top teams, or, well, not even top teams, but teams in the NBA that have needs to be filled. And you could be that guy to come in and fill that need, or possibly get them to the next level. Like, looking back at it now, when Colin Sexton was drafted by the Cavs, and this is a random example, but it's an interesting scenario. Colin Sexton was drafted by the Cavs. There was uncertainty of whether LeBron was going to come back to Cleveland. It was kind of up in the air. Colin Sexton was put in a position to kind of almost be the front face, or the main guy of what's going to happen if he leaves Cleveland. And Colin Sexton had to kind of make a case of saying, hey, we want you to come back. And obviously we know the end result was he didn't come back. And I mean, you even had Kevin Porter Jr., you had Vanderbilt, you had a couple guys who, well, his name wasn't Vanderbilt, but he went to Vanderbilt. Those kids, were trying to get him to come in, and it just didn't work. So, we're going to see how the NBA handles this new, I won't even say new norm, because they have, and I didn't share this as an article, but I'll get into it briefly. Facilities are beginning to open up for practice, which I think is great, but it's also, a risky move. In this game, it literally just happened like a couple of hours ago. Dortmund played a soccer match. Like, Germany, they're opening up and letting teams play. Watching a player score a goal with no fans was very weird. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm only giving it that attention in the sense of looking at Normally, the fans are cheering, and I think the game was in Dortmund, so it was like, no fans are cheering. You hear music playing in the speakers for, the people who are doing the actual, media portion of it. And even after the player scored, they didn't do like a celebration of any sort other than him just kind of dancing and doing his dance. And like the players were standing, keeping social distancing. I haven't thought about this, but I'm going to talk about this quickly and then we'll get into the next topic. Prepare to see a decrease in penalties or physicality in sports for a little bit. And if you don't get why I say that, then just pay attention. Because if you go back and look at the whole Utah, Oklahoma City situation, that was kind of what happened at that time, where there was a lot of physicality. And then obviously like the whole Rudy Gobert thing, him, putting his hands on the microphone. Just pay attention to what's going on. I guess that's my main thing I'm sharing or telling everyone regarding this. And our next topic, and this is our last sports topic, we have DeAndre Baker and Quentin Dunbar are wanted on armed robbery charges. As of today, I believe DeAndre Baker did turn himself in, and there hasn't been any word regarding Quentin Dunbar. Baker's arrest warrant is for 4 counts of armed robbery with a firearm and 4 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm. Dunbar is wanted on 4 counts of armed robbery with a firearm. This took place back on Wednesday night at a party that began on Wednesday evening. According to the arrest warrant, Baker and Dunbar are accused of stealing money and watches with force while armed with semi-automatic firearms. It states that Baker intentionally threatened victims with a firearm. According to the arrest warrant, multiple witnesses said at one point during the incident, Baker ordered another suspect wearing another mask to shoot an individual who was just entering the party. The warrant includes conflicting accounts from witnesses to whether Dunbar was armed, with some saying they didn't see a gun in his possession. The NFL did say that they are aware of the matter and and did not have any further comment at this time. They're going to review the incident under their personal conduct policy and hand out discipline if necessary. And then they give you the personal information regarding the players themselves. Just looks bad. I mean, we know that already, but it really gives a bad look, especially with the NFL trying to keep now I don't want to say the clean image, but really trying to push themselves to go in the right direction as a league and as a brand. This goes back to a statement that I make frequently and often on the podcast, and it's always a gem that I share. The worst thing you can do is be bigger than the shield. But when you do something that makes you bigger than the shield and could possibly impact the sport as a whole, not a good idea. Just not a good idea at all. And that's kind of the best way I can describe it. So that's all I have for sports. Sports was kind of, I won't say mad, but sports was kind of chill this week or these last 2 weeks. I won't be doing it now, but I'm going to give it a couple weeks. I think in June, because I would like to get back to doing every other week, but not yet. I mean, not every other week. I want to do every week, but I also want to get through May and then let June be that pickup point of podcasting. Because I really, if y'all been here long enough, if you listen to the show, before we do switch over to stuff, I always give a little conversation piece and just some stuff to talk about and get into. But I do miss podcasting, and I'm thinking, and I'm not sure yet, I possibly might start doing a podcast every day in June. I don't know yet. And the only reason I'm thinking about it or considering it is solely because there are so many things and so many topics that are or have been going on that I have not been talking about. And I'm going to be 100% honest, and I've even had someone bring this to my attention. Some stuff I have to be very cautious and cordial in talking about. So I'm going to be thinking about that as well. So we'll look at that and see what it could be. If I do an everyday podcast, that might mean you might be getting stories on the fly. And that might cut the weekly shows down a little bit. And I'm also going to look at my options on audio time or how much time I would have if I need to change that. So we'll think about all that later. It's just me throwing ideas publicly into the show to just kind of look at and consider. Our first story and stuff, which I actually just recently found, is related to the OnePlus 8 Pro. It has a filter on it, which does like an X-ray filter. But it can see through plastic as well as clothes. Now, it's not an actual X-ray. They just consider it as looked at as being infrared. It uses the infrared sensors to see through a small subset of black materials. They use the example. They go with the guy from Unbox Therapy. He does a reference where he takes, which is, I have a blue shirt on, but he's wearing a black shirt, and under his shirt he has a phone in the box, and the camera takes a picture of him in the inverted option, and you can see the actual box as well as the silhouette itself being displayed. The infrared sits right above visible light in the electromagnetic spectrum, and is sometimes referred to as heat radiation because that's how we feel it affects. The world is saturated in infrared, but because we don't see it, we don't usually think about it. About half of the energy that arrives on Earth from the sun arrives as infrared, for example. And they just give a little bit more information about this feature. So I saw this as an article, and I was like, okay, this is very intriguing and very interesting. But we'll keep our eyes on if they're going to remove that feature or how that's going to be adjusted for upcoming devices. And let me just, before I get too ahead of myself, let's see. The question that remains is, will this create trouble for OnePlus, especially if the filter can be used to see through clothing with all the privacy problems that entails? In the Unbox Therapy video, it does seem like the filter can see through clothing, albeit in very limited conditions. A Reddit user confirmed the same thing. Depending on the severity of the problem, OnePlus might have to restrict the feature through a software update. After all, there was a similar scandal in the 90s when Sony was forced to recall a camcorder that included a night vision feature that could also be used to see through clothing. Until then, enjoy looking inside your TV remote. If you have an 8 Pro and have experimented with the feature, drop some pictures below. We'll update the story if and when we hear back from OnePlus. And obviously the update was that OnePlus has declined to comment. So that is where that is, and that's how that has all come to fruition. $400 million later, Facebook buys Giphy. Giphy, if any of you are or aren't aware, is kind of like the GIF archive haven of the internet. You can find just about any GIF at any point in any manner on Giphy. I know I use the Google keyboard or Gboard on most of my electronic devices, and it has its own GIF keyboard option, which is great. A lot of people use GIF-Tuner, but Giphy is kind of like the big one that a lot of people will tell you to download, and it almost opens you up to a new set of GIFs that you didn't realize even existed. And this is kind of key. Before I read this article, it's key to look at this because Facebook did implement that feature within the last year or two where you could leave comments to people that were actual GIFs. And this is going to be helpful because I won't say they're behind on this because they are kind of behind in a sense. Twitter, if you post actual statuses, just regular updates or posts, you can implement the feature so that it actually you can put a GIF as your status. You don't have that ability. And I want to say Facebook may have just recently added that feature. I can't check on either device because then I would be ending the recording and I don't want to do that. But I know for a fact that I have seen it occur where if you're, sending things, you're limited to that feature and or option of posting an actual GIF. Oh, you were before. Now, like I said, it may have changed recently. But Facebook has bought the GIF sharing service Giphy, which will now be a part of Instagram. And that's why that's done as well, because it's also one of their other sister companies. It plans to integrate Giphy's library more deeply into Instagram, where GIFs are easily prevalent in stories and other Facebook services. Although Facebook didn't reveal how much it paid the 7-year-old company, Axios reported that the price was $400 million. By bringing Instagram and Giphy together, we can make it easier for people to find the perfect GIFs and stickers and stories in direct. Facebook Vice President of Product Vishal Shah wrote in a blog post. Facebook has used Giphy APIs for years to bring GIFs to its various services. Instagram alone is already responsible for about 25% of Giphy's daily traffic, according to Facebook, and the company's other apps account for another 25%. So take back everything I said. This has to do with Facebook, but this is more about Instagram. You'll be able to upload and remix your own GIFs. Developers and Giphy's API partners will also still have access to the massive GIF library, as well as Giphy stickers and emoji. Those partners include the likes of Twitter, Slack, Skype, TikTok, Tinder, and Samsung. So we're going to see this come full circle in some manner. I didn't realize they were all API partners, but that's something new that I'm learning as a techie. So we'll see what happens with the GIF world on Instagram, and this will soon possibly, I could see it coming to Facebook at some point. The last stuff story I have, which I found online, and I'm still in awe of it being a real thing, is the MacBook. I'm sorry, not the MacBook, but the Mac Pro has implemented, they have some wheels that will allow you to actually wheel your Mac Pro around. Now, if you remember the Mac Pro, we talked about it a couple of episodes back. I believe it would have been last year. And it is, anyone who looks at it, the first thing they think of, it looks like a cheese grater from the front, but it is a very powerful high-end Mac Pro or Mac desktop that can do a lot. And they have added these wheels, and the article that I have references to using these wheels in a sense of actual skateboard wheels. They're not meant for skateboarding, obviously, because it's just not going to keep that type of movement going. But hey, to each his own. Unless you've been living in a cave for the past month, you'll know that Apple has started selling a set of standalone wheels for the Mac Pro for $700. Yes, it's ridiculous. At that price, it stands to reason that you probably want them to do more than just transport your expensive Mac Pro around the office. So why not try attaching them to the bottom of a skateboard instead? They show this is exactly what the YouTube channel Braille Skateboarding has attempted in its last video. They're technically not the first people to have this idea, after Unbox Therapy made a makeshift skateboard by combining the wheels with the front panel of a Mac Pro. But as far as we're aware, Braille Skateboarding are the first to have actually skated on them. They even pull off a successful kickflip. And as a non-skater, I almost didn't know what that meant, but I realized it afterward. The Apple skateboard works terribly, for example, until the team put a set of traditional skateboarding trucks on the board. The wheels constantly pivot in all directions, unlike most skateboards, which are only going to go one direction. It means you can skateboard sideways, but it also inevitably means falling off in the process. The wheels themselves held up surprisingly well, though, even if the hardware holding them to the board quickly started bending and breaking. So yes, it's a terrible idea, but it makes for great YouTube content. I didn't really share the article for the article. I shared it because the fact that that Mac actually has a $700 set of wheels to go on a computer is very Apple. To say what I was saying. And that's why when I tell people all the time, if you're finding chargers or if you're finding any accessories for your Apple devices, shop around. Don't just automatically say, oh, it's got to be Apple. I got to go to Apple's site and buy it. You can find some deals and still get the same quality product and not break the bank. I'm going to get into Ass of the Week and Passes of the Week. Before I do want to share, I've been kind of in and out of music this week. I did listen to Kehlani's new album, which is pretty good. I also listened to Future's new album. I listened to about 4 or 5 tracks and kind of gave it a break. Trying to think. I know Joe, he recommended an artist recently that I checked out his album. It was somewhat of an EP. It was 6 tracks. I'm gonna see if I can find it. If I got lucky and saved it, I probably didn't, knowing my luck. But there were definitely a fair share of albums that dropped. Let's see. Probably gonna find it if I'm lucky. Joyner Lucas and Will Smith have a single together. Have not listened to it yet. Bad Bunny has a new album. Definitely, if you want to check that out. Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber have a single together. If you want to listen to that. And Lil Durk has a new album that just dropped last week. And yeah, that's our overall music breakdown. I need to listen to her a little bit more. A friend of mine did recommend a few weeks ago to listen to Umi. She has a song called Introspection, which is pretty good. I have been telling everyone this early on, and I'm going to keep reminding folks. If you're on Spotify, there's a friend of mine. She does what's called the Top 11. Her name she goes by is her name is Lilith Rose. You can look up, and if you want to add me and look them up, you're welcome to. But she does a playlist every Sunday, and it's basically like her top 11. And as I told people, you got to play them in order. And also a friend of mine, she goes by J Craw on Spotify and on Apple Music. She does a playlist that's called Pussy Power, and she's up to volume 4. So explicit content, you already know. And I also have, if you did not watch Erica's, you know what? I'm slipping. We did not even talk about Erica and Jill. So Erica Badu and Jill Scott did a versus. It wasn't a music battle. It wasn't a competition. It was more an enjoyment of music. One was there for love. One was there for life. Jill's going to give you love. Erica's going to give you life. Erica gave a lot of life-based songs. I got in late because I missed the other side of the game. But they both, if you wanted to listen to their actual music and the songs that were performed, I believe it's on Apple Music as well. But I know on Spotify, they do have the actual playlist of each song that each of them played. And it was interesting because people asked, and it was a coincidence that they actually did perform You Got Me separately. Because one, I think Erica did her version when she was with the Roots, and then Jill Scott went on and did hers when it was live. So that was cool to see that be the foundation. Another conversation that came up in music was who had a better song between Sade's Sweetest Taboo and Anita Baker. I can't remember the song. I think it was Sweet Love. I can't remember. But someone on Spotify made a playlist of Anita Baker's and Sade's songs if you want to kind of get that mellow out flow going on with those songs. But yeah, I caught what I could of Erica and Jill, and I personally, I'm not giving anybody as a winner. Hey, Ma, what's going on? Welcome to the show. All in all, it was a fun listen. It was a great musical sesh. It got me to really look at listening to music. And before I forget, actually 2 birthdays that I'm going to give shout outs to. Stevie Wonder turned 70 this week. So shout outs to him. And also Janet Jackson's birthday is today, which I literally did not realize until I looked at other friends of mine who celebrate their birthdays on Janet's birthday. On that day. I don't know why I want to make it Janet's Day, but you get the gist of where I'm going with that. To our passes of the week. Our first pass of the week is a Hall of Fame coach with the Miami Dolphins. Don Shula, he died at the age of 90 years old. He was the winningest coach to lead the Dolphins to their only undefeated season. They'd won the Super Bowl that year. If anyone knows the reference, they always make mockery of it, where if a team looks like they're going on a winning streak and they're about to go undefeated, once they actually lose that game in the season, then you'll see they'll always show the Dolphins team come together, this specific Dolphins team come together and pop champagne like, hey, another team misses the mark. Shula won an NFL record 347 games, including playoff games. He coached the Dolphins to their only undefeated season back in '72, where they beat the Redskins in Super Bowl VII. Tells you how long ago that was. The Dolphins repeated as champions the next season. So he did. So he's won multiple championships. Okay. He guided the Dolphins to 5 Super Bowls, including losses to the Redskins and 49ers. Today is a sad day, and they give like the PR breakdown for that. So we definitely lost an icon. And I know a friend of mine, it was tough for him in losing, realizing that an OG coach of his team passed, and he had a personal loss in his family. So I send condolences to him. I send condolences to the Shula family as well. Dwight Howard, his mother passed due to an epileptic seizure, and Dwight Howard did speak on this. It was addressed that it was an epileptic seizure, and she passed back on. Let me read the article in its proper proportion. And I'm sorry, this isn't his mother. This is his son's mother. Let me be sure I'm giving a clear information. As the nation reels from the coronavirus pandemic, Los Angeles Lakers center Dwight Howard is mourning the loss of Melissa Rios, the mother of his 6-year-old son, David, he told reporters Friday. Rios, who was 31, died of an epileptic seizure on March 27th in her home in Calabasas. I've had some things happen in my personal life that have been difficult to really handle. My son's mom, she had passed away a month and a half ago, and it's extremely difficult for me to try to understand how to talk to my son, who's 6 years old, just about the whole situation. David is with Howard in Georgia, where he has been riding out the NBA hiatus on his 23-acre property. He was planning to invite Rios, a real estate agent and epilepsy advocate, to spend time with him and their son in Georgia when he found out she had passed. Howard, who was 34, said spending time with David and his four other children has given him some comfort during an uneasy time. Every moment counts. Be grateful for every situation that you have. Just be grateful for life. I think we also take for granted the little things and just spending time with people and stuff like that. And you know that after having all these situations, it's like reconfirming to me, just stay in the moment. Always be grateful. Always be grateful for everything you have, every little thing that happens. Definitely, tough news to read or tough information to share. But I do send prayers to his family, to him, dealing with this, and also her family for losing their, child, sibling, mother, etc. The list goes on and on. And that definitely can be a tough experience for anyone to endure. So I definitely, hope they're getting through that. Our ass of the week is going to be, I won't say it's a weird one, but it's a fun one, because I always love finding these and love sharing these. Because for whatever reason, Isaiah Thomas, who is currently in the NBA, I believe he was last with the Washington Wizards. And I know at one point he was with the Denver Nuggets. They seem to, anytime something happens in The Last Dance, they always seem to tweet him instead of actually tweeting the right Isaiah Thomas, who actually played for the Pistons. And it never fails when they do it. So Michael Jordan fans tweeting the wrong Isaiah Thomas. They clarify which Isaiah Thomas they should be mad at. He revealed Monday that his social media mentions were filled with hate and anger after Sunday's airing of The Last Dance. This was back on the 4th episode. The documentary detailed how Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons refused to shake hands In reaction, fans went to chew the former Pistons guard out on Twitter. They had the wrong Isaiah Thomas. So then they show a picture of both Isaiah Thomases together, and them kind of doing like a game show together, things of that sort. I don't know how y'all can get that wrong, but obviously they did, or they do. And so that always comes to a full circle of a story, and just being what it is, it just never, it's something we shouldn't be surprised by. With all that being the case, we're going to get into, I'm going to go ahead and do the pass the message for today, which is, and I guess Dwight Howard might have helped me with this because this is going to be something good to present. And that is to learn how to be grateful. The hardest thing to do in this time with all this going on is we become ungrateful about the things we don't have instead of actually valuing the things we do have. Life comes at us hard and heavy, and there's no off switch. And I think for us as people, we really are sitting there with a wait or a pause of wanting a moment to happen how we think it should happen. And in reality, it just doesn't work that way. Life is going to happen the way it does, and we have to be in the moment and be grateful for what occurs. And that's kind of all I have for today's show. I'm glad everyone is, I'm hoping everyone is staying safe and doing the proper things to take care of themselves during this time. Give people the love that they deserve. Like, we all deserve love, whether we realize it or not. And I don't want us to take the small things for granted that we normally do. And I've noticed more now how important that is. So I try to pay that forward to others and let them know, take the moment. Don't rush life. Life is here. We're here. Until we're no longer here, we got to live it and go through it the best we can. So I hope everyone gets through this, and I hope everyone keeps their head level. Reach out to people as often as you can. Don't be as selfish. Learn to be selfless. And that's what I'm going to go with. And I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your week. We will be back on the 30th, 2 weeks from today. And possibly that following Monday, we might be back potting on a regular week-to-week basis. I'm going to see how that works out. But until next time, this is The Pass. And I am your host, BT, and I hope y'all have a safe one. Really appreciate all the support, all the listens, all the likes, all the effort that goes into anyone who has provided any form of content for The Pass. We're signing out now, but you definitely don't want to miss what's in store for the upcoming episode. If you are interested in getting more information or becoming a podcaster, you can check out buzzsprout.com. And the microphone that you are hearing me use is the Blue Yeti X. I had been using a Yeti for a while. I went back to the Samson Meteor, but now I'm using the Blue Yeti X, which is everything. Trust me. All social medias, The Pass BT. That's THE Pass, as in pass the ball. BT is my initials. And finally, if you are a creator and you want to support a fellow creator, subscribe, like, and comment on The Pass. Until next time, this is your host, BT, signing out.